Part 114. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1131. Chapter 1131. Why is Mr. R here? Xia Ying opened her eyes, thinking she was hallucinating, but not long after, she heard that strange sound again. It was intermittent, as vague as a gossamer, but Xia Ying was clearly sure that she heard it. I just can't hear what the sound is, it seems like a person is singing. Xia Ying frowned and stood up, wondering where the sound came from. After walking and making no progress, the voice seemed to become clearer and clearer. It was a man's voice. Faintly, Xia Ying could only vaguely hear it, as if it was saying help. Help. Yes, it's life-saving. But Yu Lingfeng has no homes within a 10-mile radius, it's all woods, where do the people come from? Moreover, he was shouting for help, but the voice didn't seem to come from outside, as if the person was inside the castle. Xia Ying turned around and wanted to find Yu Lingfeng, but just after taking a few steps, she suddenly stopped and the light in her eyes changed instantly. It has lost its color and soul. Xia Ying turned around mechanically and walked in a certain direction. Her steps were steady and calm, as if she had a set goal. At this time, the goo insect bracelet in Xia Ying's hand made a loud sound that kept ringing. But Xia Ying seemed not to hear it, turning a deaf ear to it, still looking straight into the distance and walking towards it. Yu Lingfeng, who was cooking in the kitchen at the moment, stopped cutting vegetables and frowned, as if he heard something. Yu Lingfeng raised his ears, and the sound seemed to have disappeared again. Yu Lingfeng shook his head, thinking that he had a neurasthenia and was hallucinating. He had experienced this kind of thing several times in the past few days. Yu Lingfeng calmed down and continued cutting vegetables. Xia Ying walked down a long staircase with no bottom. The light at the end of the stairs became darker and darker. Later, Xia Ying was annihilated in the darkness. The heavy door in front of her was opened, and Xia Ying walked in mechanically, her steps very light, making almost no sound as she walked on the ground. At this time, the dark room suddenly lit up with lights. Xia Ying was startled and suddenly came back to her senses. Why am I here? Xia Ying looked around. The lights were dim and there was only a dark ancient lamp hanging on the wall. Xia Ying looked forward intently, screamed, and took a few steps back, her face turned pale with fear. The person in front of him was imprisoned by iron chains, his eyes were closed, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive. His skin was pale, and in the dimly lit basement, he looked even more like a ghost, lifeless. Xia Ying's eyes fell on his face. He was wearing a mask. The mask stung Xia Ying's eyes. Looking down, there was a dusty black ribbon on his left hand. Exactly the same as the one in her hand. It's Mr. R. Mr. R. Xia Ying was so frightened that her legs trembled, she covered her mouth and her eyes widened, unable to believe what she saw in front of her. Why is Mr. R here? At this time, words came to Xia Ying's mind, Yu Lingfeng is not as simple as you think. Mr. R was probably killed by Yu Lingfeng, or was hidden by him. Yu Lingfeng and his father Yu Moliang are both murderers. Yu Lingfeng has a purpose for approaching you. Stay away from him. Xia Ying's mind went blank with a bang, then her legs went limp and she sat on the ground. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1132. Chapter 1132. I made you reborn. Things are not what they seem. Yu Lingfeng's cold voice sounded behind Xia Ying. Xia Ying suddenly turned back to look at him, her eyes sparkling. Yu Lingfeng, what's going on? Why is Mr. R here? She didn't believe anyone. She had never doubted that Yu Lingfeng would be a bad person from the beginning. Even if she saw Mr. R imprisoned here by him, she still had to wait for Yu Lingfeng's explanation. Yu Lingfeng sighed. He originally thought that this matter could be kept hidden forever, but he did not expect that Xia Ying would find this place. How did she open that door? But right now, these are not important. What is important is that Xia Ying admires Mr. R so much, but she saw that she imprisoned Mr. R here. Would she feel that she was a murderer or a pervert? It's all very complicated, I don't know how to talk about it. Yu Lingfeng held her forehead, feeling very embarrassed. He originally wanted to wait until a suitable time to send him back to his home planet, but before that day came, he was discovered by Xia Ying. Now, he can't hide it anymore. Yu Lingfeng, you say it, and I want to listen to you. Xia Ying's tone was angry and excited. You know, at the beginning, Jun Chenai and Rong Si all told Mr. R that you were the one who killed him. They also said that you were a perverted killer and that you had other purposes for approaching me. Then do you believe it? Yu Lingfeng interrupted. Of course I don't believe it. If I did, why would I let you be my tutor, why would I still be with you, and why would I like you? Xia Ying's eye circles gradually filled with tears. You know, I was actually reborn once. Whether you believe it or not, I died once. I was already 21 years old at that time, but then I was reborn and returned to 16 years old. No matter it was the last life or this life, you have always been by my side to protect me, so even if the whole world says you are a bad person, I will stand on your side, because you are so good to me, and I don't care at all. I believe you will harm me. Yu Lingfeng possessed Xia Ying and held her in his arms, gently wiping away the tears from the corners of Xia Ying's eyes. I won't harm you, and I'm not a bad person. I believe you were reborn once, because I made you reborn. Xia Ying froze and looked up at Yu Lingfeng with tears in her eyes. What did you say? I made you reborn. Yu Lingfeng looked calm. You died in front of me at that time. I couldn't accept it, so I took the risk of being swallowed by time and space or being swallowed by a black hole, and traveled through time and space. I went back to when you were 16 years old, and it was only later that I found out that you still had memories of your previous life. This is simply impossible, but it just happened like this. Xia Ying felt dizzy after hearing this, but she understood something clearly. Her second life was given by Yu Lingfeng. This is why, in the last life, Xia Ying had never seen 11 Ju, but in this life, a 11 Ju suddenly appeared. 11 Ju was a robot created by Yu Lingfeng after traveling through time and space. So in the last life, there was no Zihu. Well, then Mr. R. Yu Lingfeng glanced at Mr. R, his eyes darkened. It's true that he is Mr. R, but at the same time, he is also my brother. Brother. Xia Ying was stunned, but how old was Yu Lingfeng at that time? Mr. R is considered a person of his parents' generation. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1133. Chapter 1133. You are the person I am looking for. Because the time on our planet is different from that on your Earth, he was a young boy when he came to Earth, and so was I at that time. Xia Ying frowned and thought for a while, then, your father Yu Moliang. No, that's not my father. In order to hide his identity, I came up with the so-called father. Mr. R is him, and Yu Moliang is his name. It was just used by me in the past. But I clearly remember that I saw you when I was a child. At that time, you were only a half-grown child. But you didn't see my whole body, did you? When Yu Lingfeng asked, Xia Ying remembered that at that time, she only saw Yu Lingfeng in the corner. Only half of the body, indeed, the whole body was not seen. So, when she was young, the Yu Moliang she saw was actually Yu Lingfeng. The person who is close to Xiachuan Hai is also Yu Lingfeng. I just covered it up a little bit. But, why do you want to lock him here, and, is he dead or alive now? Xia Ying said and looked back at Yu Moliang, who was bound by shackles. All these things suddenly broke her cognition, leaving Xia Ying at a loss for a moment. Because he is a bad person and is against me in every way. He has only one purpose in coming to Earth, which is to kill you. Xia Ying opened her eyes wide and said in disbelief, but he obviously saved me. He was the one who saved me when the fire broke out. Yu Lingfeng sneered and said disdainfully, he saved you. How could he save you? That fire was caused by him with his own hands, and his purpose was to kill you. But, I clearly remember that there was such a black ribbon on his hand. No. Yu Lingfeng shook his head, that's not an ordinary ribbon, it's his energy source. Just like my energy source, it's my watch. Without an energy source, it can't move on the earth, just like a dead body. At that time, I snatched away his energy source and then returned to the fire scene to save you. What about Jun Chennai? The ribbon in Jun Chennai's hand was given by you? Did you give the energy source to Jun Chennai? Xia Ying felt that she had been stunned. Yu Lingfeng recalled the scene that day, lowered his eyes, and felt a little sad. When I arrived, you and Jun Chennai were the only two people alive at the scene. After I rescued you, I turned around to save Jun Chennai and found that he was already dying. So I gave him the energy source. Jun Chennai saved his life by absorbing the energy of the energy source. After the energy of the energy source was used up, it was just an ordinary ribbon. So that's it? Xia Ying lowered her head and murmured, Yu Lingfeng, you just said that Yu Moliang came to Earth to kill me. Why? And if he wanted to kill me, why did he set fire to the kindergarten and hurt so many innocent lives? The fire that year left an indelible shadow on many families for a lifetime. Thinking about it now, it was also the shadow of Xia Ying's childhood. It turns out that so many people died innocently and tragically because of her. Because I am the crown prince of our planet and the future king. Before my coronation, the wizard calculated that I would be in trouble. Everyone on our planet will find their destined lover when they are 18 years old and stay with them for the rest of their lives. But on the day I turned 18, I didn't expect such a person. Later, in Star Wars, I led the army to fight, and somehow entered the black hole of time and space, and then came to the Earth. When I saw you for the first time after coming to the Earth, I was like, I knew you were the one I was looking for. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1134. Chapter 1134. Let's call her Xia Ying. When Yu Lingfeng met Xia Ying for the first time, she was just a swaddled baby. At that time, Yu Lingfeng accidentally saved Xia Chuanhai's life in a car accident. Luo Xian carried young Xia Ying to the hospital to visit the seriously injured Xia Chuanhai. That was also the first time Yu Lingfeng and Xia Ying met. At that time, Xia Ying's clear eyes were as deep as the ocean and as bright as the sky. Yu Lingfeng was shocked the first time he saw her. He never thought that the person he had been searching for so long would actually meet him in another time and space. Although she is just a baby and cannot speak, her smile is as warm as the sun. Luo Xian said, this child is destined to you. She will smile when she sees you. She doesn't have a name yet, so why don't you give her a name? Yu Lingfeng squinted his eyes slightly, looked at the blooming cherry blossoms outside the window, and said, let's call her Xia Ying. Later, Yu Lingfeng and Xia Chuanhai became good friends, and he watched Xia Ying grow bigger and bigger, but not long after, Yu Lingfeng left Xia Chuanhai's world. He wants to wait for Xia Ying to grow up, and naturally he has to control his time on Earth, otherwise he will become a middle-aged uncle by the time Xia Ying grows up. So, Yu Lingfeng began to control his own time. The process was painful, but the result was worth it. In order to stop his time on Earth, Yu Lingfeng only had a few days of activity in a year. The rest of the time, he hibernated in his own time capsule. During the only few days, Yu Lingfeng also went to see Xia Ying secretly. 5 years have passed in such days. One day later, Yu Lingfeng suddenly discovered that Yu Moliang had also come to Earth. When Yu Moliang was also in Star Wars, he and Yu Lingfeng fell to Earth at the same time. The two brothers reunited. Yu Moliang learned about Yu Lingfeng's secret and found that Yu Lingfeng often went to the love kindergarten to visit the children. His eyes were very different from the always cold Yu Lingfeng. Yu Moliang could tell at a glance. Got a clue? At first, Yu Lingfeng didn't know that Yu Moliang hated his position as crown prince. After all, they were brothers, so Yu Lingfeng had no reservations or vigilance against him. Yu Moliang asked him, "Lingfeng, what do you see every time you go to that kindergarten?" Yu Lingfeng said that her destined lover was there. Yu Lingfeng did not expect at the time that his words would cause endless troubles later on. The next day, the kindergarten caught fire. On the way to the kindergarten, Yu Lingfeng met Yu Moliang, who was looking anxious. Yu Lingfeng saw something was wrong, so he asked him what was wrong. Yu Moliang raised his lips and showed a sinister smile. "Yu Lingfeng, the throne is mine." Yu Lingfeng suddenly realized that something happened to Xia Ying. He wanted to save her, but Yu Moliang kept pestering her. Yu Lingfeng had no choice but to attack Yu Moliang and took away his energy source. Yu Moliang, who had lost the energy source, ran away dying. Yu Lingfeng rushed to the scene of the fire and rescued Xia Ying. By the way, he also rescued Jun Chenai. All the other children died. Yu Lingfeng took Xia Ying and Jun Chenai out of the fire scene, and then left quickly. He was going to chase Yu Moliang. When Yu Lingfeng found Yu Moliang again, he had collapsed in the woods. Yu Lingfeng took his body back and sealed it in the basement until today. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1135. Chapter 1135. I am his only competitor. Why kill me so that he can inherit the throne, but the crown prince is obviously you. Xia Ying listened to a series of narrations by Yu Lingfeng, and suddenly felt like her knowledge had been refreshed. It turns out that Mr. R, whom she has admired since she was a child, is actually a bad person. He almost killed her, and her childhood shadow is also caused by him. Because on our planet, as long as one of a pair of lovers dies, the other will die soon after. This is a kind of magnetic field energy that is difficult to explain. Yu Lingfeng narrated calmly, as soon as one is born, we are an energy body. When we meet each other, our energy will increase and reach its peak. But if the other person dies, the energy will slowly deplete until it disappears and dies. Yu Moliang is my younger brother. In his view, I am his only competitor. As long as I die, he will be the only successor. When he first came to Earth, Yu Lingfeng tried every means to return to his own planet, so he studied countless astrophysics and cosmic principles. Later, he even joined the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to see if those top physicists and physical equipment could bring him back to his home planet. Yu Lingfeng spent a long time researching, and later found out in despair that the physical and technological development of the Earth were too backward. With these ancient instruments and backward technology in his opinion, he had no hope of going back. After realizing this, Yu Lingfeng withdrew from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. In less than half a year, he left behind a good story. The Chinese people called him a genius physicist. But at that time, Yu Lingfeng had been using Yu Moliang's name because he was waiting for Xia Ying to grow up. If he used his own name, it would be difficult to explain in the future. Yu Moliang also found Yu Lingfeng through this name, and learned that Yu Lingfeng was also on Earth. Then, is he dead now? Xia Ying turned around and looked at the masked face with closed eyes that looked very similar to Yu Ling's style. No, He is not dead. His age is still 17 years old. He is not an adult yet. His energy will increase in the future. He just has no energy supply and time has stopped. Yu Lingfeng looked back at that face. Although the people on their planet do not value family ties, Yu Moliang is his good comrade in arms. They have fought many victorious battles together, and their relationship is considered deep. However, Yu Lingfeng later realized that he had always hated him so much. Yu Lingfeng was born as a proud man, and his ability is the strongest on the planet. But Yu Moliang, also as a prince, is Yu Lingfeng's younger brother, but his ability is far inferior to Yu Lingfeng's. He has been living in his shadow, he wants to surpass him, he wants to kill him. He wants to be the king of the planet, and he enjoys being admired by everyone. What about the ribbon in his hand? Didn't Yu Lingfeng just say that his ribbon had been given to Jun Chenai? Why is there still a ribbon on his hand? I made that ribbon for him. It suppressed the growth of his energy. It also gave him his last breath. He is not dead. When the time is right, he can be awakened again. Yu Lingfeng lowered his eyes and said calmly. Since he wants to kill you, why don't you take the opportunity to kill him? This is against the rules of our planet, Yu Lingfeng continued. He is the crown prince, and I have no right to kill him. I can only take him back and accept the king's sanction. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1136. Chapter 1136, The Unprecedented Zero Black Spot Idol. Xia Ying finally knew that Rong Si and Jun Chenai had always misunderstood that Yu Lingfeng's father was the murderer of the kindergarten arson case. Probably because Yu Moliang and Yu Lingfeng looked alike, they both misunderstood him. They thought that the fire was caused by Yu Lingfeng's father, the same Yu Lingfeng back then. However, Mr. R had not yet come out when the fire broke out. Now that you have caught him, how did he come out later? Xia Ying then asked. Speaking of this, Yu Lingfeng sighed, I took it too lightly at the time. Although he lost his energy source, he still retained a trace of energy in his body, which was enough for him to survive. At that time, Yu Lingfeng detained him in the basement. Yu Moliang kept begging Yu Lingfeng for mercy, saying that he did such a thing because he was temporarily lost in his mind. He regretted it and promised never to do it again. He has also been using Yu Lingfeng and his many years of battlefield friendship and the memories of growing up together as children to persuade Yu Lingfeng to give him a chance. Yu Lingfeng thought that he was still young, and out of a sense of affection, agreed to let him go, but placed a specific chip in his body. As soon as he had the intention to kill, Yu Lingfeng would sense it and immediately rush to deal with him. Even though Yu Lingfeng is hibernating, he can still sense everything in the outside world. After a peaceful period of time, Yu Moliang also continued to do charity to make up for his original mistakes. Yu Lingfeng thought that he had really changed his ways. Later, he entered the entertainment industry, masked himself and started singing, and called himself Mr. R. Yu Lingfeng didn't take all this to heart at first, until Yu Lingfeng overheard his song and noticed something was wrong. Yu Moliang's superpower is that his singing has a bewitching effect. And the reason why he thrived in the entertainment industry and became a phenomenon-level national idol is because he used his superpowers. At that time, almost everyone in China was a fan of Mr. R. Whenever he holds a concert, the venue is bound to be packed and even safety accidents occur. Mr. R is also an idol with zero black spots in the entertainment industry. There is no one who doesn't like his singing or his music, including Xia Ying. Yu Lingfeng felt that something was getting more and more wrong. During that time, Xia Ying fell in love with Mr. R like crazy and would spend everything to see his concert. Later at a concert, Xia Ying met Mr. R up close and was even more impressed by his charm. Even because of him, he established his dream of entering the entertainment industry and becoming a singer in the future. Yu Lingfeng felt that Yu Moliang was playing a long game to catch big fish. At that time, Xia Ying had completely fallen under his spell and was bewitched by him. When Yu Lingfeng caught Yu Moliang again, he found that his energy was no longer what it used to be. He enjoys the feeling of being revered by everyone, because he has never realized in his home planet that all the glory belongs to Yu Lingfeng. He has been living in the shadow of Yu Lingfeng, and he has long been tired of it. Even though he knew that those people liked him so much because of his superpowers, he still enjoyed the glory of self-deception. After being caught by Yu Lingfeng again, Yu Moliang didn't say a word and was willing to do so. At least, he still realized his dream. Although the time was so short, it was enough and he was satisfied. According to the interstellar convention, it is illegal for you to use these superpowers on people on Earth. Yu Lingfeng said to him. Yu Moliang's bewitching skills will gradually make people lose their minds if things go on like this. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1137. Chapter 1137. It turns out that all this is fake. Yu Moliang gave a bitter smile and looked at Yu Lingfeng. His eyes were so cold. I know, but I only have the superpower. I am not like you, the proud son of heaven, who has been shining brightly since he was born, and now it is even more, the invincible number one of war on our planet. You never know what it feels like to be crushed. Just like if you want to catch me, you can come and catch me. If you want to kill me, it's just a matter of your thoughts. I'm different. I've been your war and general's brother since I was a child. I don't even deserve a name. I've also experienced life and death on the battlefield, but everyone remembers only your name. Yu Lingfeng frowned slightly and was non-committal. He was silent for a long time before slowly saying, "You only see my light, not my sweat and hard work. You are too ambitious, but your ability cannot match it." Yu Moliang sneered, "Yes, you are right, I am not as good as you in everything. Even your future wife has a beauty that makes me so envious." Yu Lingfeng turned around and looked at him coldly, "Don't even think about trying to trick her." Yu Moliang sneered, that smile was particularly cold. "It's too late, she is so obsessed with me now." Yu Lingfeng instantly grabbed his throat and once again took away the brand new energy source that he had carefully designed for him. Yu Moliang also sneered when he was dying, "Look, even my energy on the earth has to be controlled by you." Yu Lingfeng imprisoned him and used only one energy source to ensure that he would not die due to energy exhaustion. In fact, he had no consciousness now and was only holding on to a trace of energy to keep his body incorruptible. So when you captured Mr. R, you more or less left some evidence of guilt. That's why wrong. See, I always believed that you were the murderer of Mr. R. Xia Ying muttered. He is right, I did capture your Mr. R. Yu Lingfeng said this with a hint of ridicule. I guess that because Rong Si was so concerned about the cause of his death, he was probably very tempted at the beginning. It's more than just words. Xia Ying interrupted, during the period when Mr. R disappeared, how many people chose to commit suicide because they could no longer hear his voice or see him? That year in China was dark, and now, Mr. R still has a large number of die-hard fans, who hold memorial meetings for him every year and listen to all his songs during his lifetime. He is like a myth in China. No matter how many years have passed, as long as his music is, if he is still there, he will have a large number of fans who will like him. This is the power of his seduction. Yu Lingfeng shook his head, a little helpless. I was too careless at the beginning. If I had discovered it in time, I would not have caused the original situation. Yu Lingfeng spent most of his time hibernating, and only occasionally woke up to take a look at Xia Ying. Because he was extremely confident in the chip he put on Yu Moliang, he never received any signal, so he thought that Yu Moliang was honest and had not done anything bad. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen? It turns out that all of this is false. I like him so much just because I was bewitched by him. Xia Ying felt that her worldview had collapsed. The person she had liked and admired for so many years turned out to be such a person, and the sincere feelings she had had for so many years turned out to be nothing. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1138. Chapter 1138. I can't remember. It's a pity that even if I know that he is unforgivable, I even want to kill him all the time. However, I still want to keep him alive. Yu Lingfeng turned back and glared at Yu Moliang, with the corner of his mouth raised in a disdainful smile. He is a hero of the mother planet and has participated in countless wars with me. He is the crown prince, so I can't kill him. I can't deal with the people on the home planet on Earth. I have to bring them back to the home star and let the king deal with them. Xia Ying took a breath, closed her eyes, and didn't look at him. By the way, how did you find this place? Yu Lingfeng wanted to ask this from the beginning. The secret room was called the secret room because it was difficult to find. Besides, no one else could open the door except him and 11 Ju. How did Xia Ying open this door, and then came in? I don't remember either. I seem to have arrived here in a daze. Xia Ying frowned and patted her forehead a few times. She really couldn't remember anything. Not only that, but she couldn't remember anything even if she tried to think about it like this. Moreover, Xia Ying felt that her head hurt. Very. Upon seeing this, Yu Lingfeng stroked Xia Ying's head and said comfortingly, "Don't remember? Then do you still remember how you opened that door?" "I don't remember either." Xia Ying shook her head and answered seriously, "It's strange, why can't I remember it?" Yu Lingfeng hugged Xia Ying's shoulders and led her away from this place. Forget it if you can't remember, let's leave here first." Xia Ying nodded, but she was still confused about what had just happened. Why was her mind so clear just now? When Yu Lingfeng asked, she couldn't remember anything. Before Yu Lingfeng left, he turned back and glanced meaningfully at Yu Moliang. His face was pale and lifeless, and he was imprisoned by thick shackles and chains. He looked like a Western vampire described in the book. It's so scary that people dare not approach it. Yu Lingfeng prepared a table of dishes. Xia Ying was really hungry and kept her head down while eating. However, Yu Lingfeng across from her didn't move her chopsticks. Her expression was solemn, as if she was thinking about something. Xia Ying looked up and saw Yu Lingfeng's abnormality. She thought Yu Lingfeng was still thinking about what happened just now. "Yu Lingfeng, what's wrong with you?" Yu Lingfeng came back to her senses, looked at Xia Ying, and showed a faint smile of relief. "I'm fine, I just thought of some past events." Oh, Xia Ying bit her chopsticks and looked at Yu Lingfeng dubiously. "I think the food on your planet is pretty good once you get used to it. It's not that unpalatable." Yu Lingfeng chuckled softly. "I'm afraid it's because you're hungry that you find it delicious. After living on Earth for a long time, sometimes I feel that you Earthlings know better about food, especially you Chinese. There are 8 major cuisines, each with its own characteristics. Unlike us, they all taste the same and are nutritious. There is really no change in taste." Xia Ying held her chin with her hand and stared at Yu Lingfeng with arched eyebrows. "Isn't it rare to see you say something bad about your home planet?" Yu Lingfeng was stunned for a moment. Is there any? He didn't feel that he had been bragging about his home planet. "Yes, you often dislike our Earth, and you say you can't get used to our Earth's food. In short, if you don't like it, it seems to be bad." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 1139. Chapter 1139, It's like I found a treasure. Yu Lingfeng smiled softly and shook his head helplessly. Well, I didn't realize it. Xia Ying smiled as if she had succeeded, and don't you think you've become more smoky since you came to Earth? Smell of fireworks. Yu Lingfeng frowned, not understanding what this word meant. It's just that I'm easier to get along with, not as cold as before. Xia Ying just finished speaking. Then she thought about it. Brothers are plotting to harm each other. Even when they call their father, they say king just like everyone else and coldly. This way, a planet that doesn't pay attention to emotions will not become cold. How strange. I guess the people on their planet all have poker faces. It seems that there is some. Yu Lingfeng had a smile on his lips. When I first met you, you never smiled even afterwards. Seeing you smile just once was like a fantasy. Look at you now, you smile every time. How wonderful. Xia Ying said with a smile. Yu Lingfeng didn't comment, but looked at Xia Ying with a loving look on her face. So this is how I looked to you before. Xia Ying was blocked by Yu Lingfeng's words, blinked her eyes, and finally decided to ignore it, lowered her head and continued eating. Yu Lingfeng sent a message to 11 Ju while Xia Ying was eating. Not long after, 11 Ju replied. After a while, 11 Ju replied again, Master, what should we do? Master, are you leaving soon? Rong Ci led 4 shadow hunters and chased them for more than half a month. They used all kinds of methods before finally finding the group's tentative place. Rong Ci and the others' plan at the moment is to catch them all before they leave tomorrow morning, so Rong Ci and the others only have one night. As for the countermeasures, they had already discussed it, and everything was ready. Only when dusk fell did they sneak in secretly. Rong Ci, you really have a solution. It was the first time Blue Whale went on a mission and found it very exciting, especially with Rong Ci around. She kept analyzing the pros and cons with them, and sometimes even took classes along the way. Several of them went out together and learned a lot of useful things. Previously, when Rong Ci, a person who had not experienced any shadow hunter training, landed in their organization for no apparent reason, they all looked down upon him. They felt that he must have come in through some kind of connection, but now it seems that they understand the reason why Rong Ci joined the shadow hunters in the first place. This is a treasure. However, considering that Rong Ci had replaced the Sanskrit music in the first place, they still felt a pity. Fanyan is the most powerful killer of their shadow hunters, and her success rate in executing tasks is 100%. Although she is a woman, she is more decisive and cruel than men in killing. Especially her witchcraft skills are really frightening. At that time, whenever shadow hunters were mentioned in the world, the one associated with them was Fanyan, codenamed Witch. Now, the witch has quit shadow hunters and is no longer a killer. She is wanted by Kincha, and her current whereabouts are unknown. Rong Ci crossed his legs and drank a drink leisurely. He glanced at Blue Whale and the others with half-squinted eyes. So, if you follow Brother Rong, you will have meat to eat. After you finish this job, you will also be able to work in the organization in the future. Stand up and be a good person, right? Yes, yes, Brother Rong is right. Several people flattered him. Well, be good. Rong Ci nodded with satisfaction. Rong Ci had a bad habit. He liked to hear other people say nice things and praise him. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 1140. Chapter 1140. Uniform eyebrows, pointed chin, oval face. Well, Brother Rong, can you ask me a question? Blue Whale suddenly approached Rong Ci cautiously. Rong Ci raised his eyebrows and looked at him with half-squinted eyes. What's the problem? Rong Ci was dangling a glass of water in his hand, taking a few sips into his mouth from time to time, enjoying himself. Where is she, Fanyan, now? This question is very curious to not only Blue Whale, but also all shadow hunters. Fanyan has been in the shadow hunters for so many years. Although he has not made a single friend and has few people to talk to, whenever the name Fanyan is mentioned within the shadow hunter organization, everyone has some respect. She is indeed very powerful. At a young age, she is already among the top 3 in the rankings. Anyone else would have to admire this little girl. Now, although she is no longer a shadow hunter, she is being hunted by Kincha and has a wanted order in the world, which means that she can no longer move freely. There is gradually no news about the witch in the world. Rongsi's originally cheerful face suddenly turned cloudy after hearing this question. His face became gloomy, and even the cup in his hand stopped shaking. Rongsi seemed to be stagnant. Blue Whale realized that he might have said something that he shouldn't have said and touched Rongsi's backside, so he quickly apologized. Well, brother Rong, I didn't mean to. If you don't want to say it, you don't have to say it. Before Blue Whale finished speaking, Rongsi stood up angrily and walked towards his room without even looking at him. Blue Whale was stunned on the spot, turned around, and looked at everyone in confusion, as if he was asking what he said wrong. Everyone spread their hands, expressing their helplessness. They didn't know where Rongsi's link was wrong. In short, let's not mention Fanyan's name in front of Brother Rong in the future. Blade suggested. Everyone nodded in agreement. Although Rongsi did not say a word, everyone could see that his relationship with Sanskrit was very unusual. At night, several people disguised themselves and, according to the planned plan, successfully sneaked into the villa where the thieves lived temporarily. They held a small celebration party in the villa today, as if to celebrate the many achievements they had made during this period. Of course, their most successful theft was to steal the country's precious treasures, which was the purpose of Rongkai's visit this time. We will proceed separately according to the plan later, and when we find the treasure, please remember to notify us. Rongsi said to a few people with a straight face, and then pointed to the summons they used to communicate. I know Brother Rong. Everyone lowered their voices and started to disperse around while avoiding people coming from all directions. Rongsi walked inside with determined steps. There were many people at the party, and it didn't take long for Rongsi to gradually disappear into the crowd of people at the party. Perhaps it was because of his eye-catching appearance that Rongsi was spotted by several beautifully dressed women before he walked a few steps. Several of them were holding wine glasses and walking toward Rongsi with plastic-like fake smiles on their faces. Rongsi glanced at those people. They all had unibrows, pointed chins, and oval faces. They were probably made by the same doctor at the same hospital. Rongsi hid her displeasure, pretended not to see it, turned around and prepared to escape. Handsome guy, wait a minute. Rongsi was stopped by them. End of this chapter.